Yo, what's going on? With Phantom Nightmare being less than 2 weeks away, I decided I wanted to make a video discussing Fire Kings and how I think I'ma play it and how I'ma have it being built. Now, everyone has their own opinions, right? Whether or not you play 3 Snake Eye Ash, whether you play 1, and I have been told by people that they're only gonna play 1, as crazy as that sounds. Whether or not you're going to play Prosperity, 1 or 2 Flamberge, which is the right number. Same thing with Witch, right? And in my opinion, this is the list that I became the most comfortable with. Now, I did get suggested by some of my homies, like, hey, you know, why don't you play Prosperity as well? And you know, also to reduce the number of islands and whatnot. And this is the version that I came with, which, you know, if you were to play something like that, in my opinion, while it makes you more susceptible to Droll, it gives you more options in the off chance that your opponent goes ahead and you know, hits you with an imperm on the Ash. As much as I hate to say it, imperm on Ash or imperm on any of these monsters, right, that can get you anything, hurts. Whether it be Ash, whether it be Populous, Oak, Black Witch, right, Ponix. I mean, the list can go on and on, right? But ultimately, I really did decide that this would be another list that many people can look into if they so choose. A side deck as well is something that I think is going to be good for the upcoming format. And the extra deck is something that you can modify on your own, depending on what you do or don't have. So it's up to you, really. In my opinion, this is still the list that I'm pretty comfortable with. If I were to change anything, it'd be maybe dropping 1 more island. You know, at the end of the day, you don't want to see this card. But you do kind of like seeing Sanctuary, you do like seeing these somewhat, it depends. Going second, these are a lot better, but it's still an option. And I also like the Dramatic Chase, because Dramatic Chase gives me the opportunity to play through Ash if I get hit in a random spot. For instance, if I get hit with Ash on Snake Eye Ash, you know, having the Dramatic Chase can help by getting the Bellstar and then going for the Oak into the or you know, even the Populous, really, in order to be able to actually extend your combos and finish your plays here and there. So that is what I wanted to showcase here on, you know, some of the choices that I've made. So many people are going to, you know, debate on what is the right number, but I think we all kind of come to an understanding that as far as monsters goes, 3 Kirin, 1 Garunix, 1 Arvata, and 1 Ponix, and that's really all that you should be playing for the Fire King monsters, right? Some people might want to play something like Barong as well. I just don't think it's necessary. I also think 3 Ash is correct. The reason being is that you're really never gonna break on this card. Like, yeah, seeing multiples may hurt if you want to see, you know, non-engine or anything else to further extend your plays, but the 3 Ash, in my opinion, is the perfect ratio for me. Whether or not you debate otherwise, that is of course up to you, but feel free to disagree in the comments below. 2 Populous and 1 Oak. This is pretty standard. A lot of people decided to also cut the Oak in favor of playing, you know, anything else in the deck that you really want. But I do think Oak is great as not only an extender, but as another way to get into the Flamberge Dragon. Now, to round up the, you know, engine, we have the 2 Flamberge and the 1 Black Witch. I don't like that I have to play 2, but you don't really want to see this card in your hand. And sure, you might be able to do some nasty plays with Kirin pop Flamberge, or, you know, Island pop Flamberge, but as much as I like this card, I want it in a deck, and if I draw 1, I want to be able to get into the other one without having to, you know, awkwardly get it down there. Same thing with Populous. The reason why we play 2 is because if you draw 1 in hand and you start with Ash, and, you know, you don't have the second one to add, then Bonfire allows you to actually go for the second one in the deck, assuming you didn't draw both, of course, and continue from there. Of course, we also have to consider that Bonfire and Wanted are going to be engine staples, as well as the Snake Eye and the Dramatic Chase. In my opinion, this is really only used to help play around Ash. Sure, you know, you could go for Silvera in the deck as well. It's a pretty good interruption. It gives you follow-up from its, spell trap effect in the grave, or trap effect in the grave. The fact that you can stop your opponent from being able to properly respond to Black Witch is pretty nice, not gonna lie. Or really, I think this just stops the Sinful Spoils cards like this one to get hit, right? So it's not a bad card whatsoever. I just think that it's more win hard going first, and instead of playing a brick, you can just ignore it and just play the Dramatic Chase just for the extension if you need it, right? Now from there, I guess everything else is based on what you want, right? For me, 1 Sanctuary, 2 Island. I think that's a good ratio. I think you can even dumb it down to remove 1 Island. But at the current time, with this specific list, I don't know what I would really hit in order to replace the card that would be in the deck. Like, you could play like a Call by the Grave, right? Free up a slot here in the side, but in general, Skyburn and Circle is 2 other cards in the Fire King engine that I really like. Skyburn, easily pops cards on the field and can play around Imperm and stuff like that, targeting from SP, etc. And then Circle, same thing, except you get to reborn something, right? And that can be always nice. It feels really good when you're able to hit any fire monster, really, to get back a Ash or even an Arvata, just so you can have a monster negate interruption. But a lot of people are cutting Circle, and it's understandable. It does really nothing when you have nothing in the graveyard, but hey, I like it for right now, so I'm gonna keep it. Next up will be the non-engine. In my opinion, the strongest 9 non-engine cards here are going to be triple Imperm, triple Valor, triple Ash. Reasons being is that Imperm and Valor hits all these cards really hard, right? If I normal summon Ash, I get hit with a Valor and Imperm, and I have nothing else, my turn is over, essentially, right? The deck can be pretty fragile, and now you might be saying, hey, what about like Kirin? Well, what if you don't have it, right? What if, you're going second and you don't have, Skyburn either, right? I mean, Skyburn doesn't even work with this card now that I think about it. So yeah, you're kind of just done, right? And so at the end of the day, it's really important that you play these so you can have a much more favorable matchup against the mirror match, right? And even against pure Snake Eye, this would be pretty good. And also, Rescue Ace is pretty, dominant, or at least can be pretty dominant if you don't play around it very well. So hitting things like Airlifter, Hydrant, Turbulence is going to be really strong as well. Can they play around it? Yeah, I mean, they have Emergency, and they usually go for SP before they go Turb, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? These cards are really strong. And then of course Ash, I mean, you hit the Snake Eye, you hit the Island, really good choke points in the deck, and usually, it's kind of mid. Why? Because Hira exists, but if they don't really have anything, if the only starting play is normal Populace, link into like a Limkaribo, Snake Eye, send the Populace, and then you get Ash there, I mean, you're kind of done, right? So that's what I like to think, that in the times where it matters the most, Ash is always the best card to have in hand. And then I play Nib. Is Nib good against Fire Kings? I think Nib is the bozo check. If your opponent plays into the Nib, Nib is really strong. It's not the best hand trap, just having the Nib doesn't feel insane for me, but in my opinion, Nib is still going to be a card that, when you have it with combination of Valor or an Ash, etc. When it's in combination with another hand trap, becomes really strong. Just singular, it really depends. In this deck, at the very least, you should never be losing to Nib. You should always be able to play around or through the Nibiru no matter what. The only times where Nib really hurts is, again, whenever they have another hand trap and hit you in an important choke point, right? Following that, we have the extra deck, Linkuriboh, Anima. You don't have to play Anima. In fact, you can replace Anima for just about anything else. The reason why I play it in the deck is because I main deck Nibiru. If they have a nasty board and you're able to get rid of it with it, chances are the attack is really high and the defense, so this immediately gets rid of the token. Also, it's a bozo check. That's what I like to call these cards. Almirage is great. Been a fan of this card since its release, but now it's even better. Dark, Blaze, IP, Sunlight Wolf, SP Little Knight. You should at least be playing these 5 Link 2s amongst any other Link 2s in the game. For me, instead of Heat Soul, I'm playing Nightmare Phoenix. I'm playing double Promethean Princess. I think this is going to be the correct number, but you can dumb it down to 1. The Appaloosa, again, much like the other cards, Nib, Anima, this card is a bozo check, or it can just be a really good interruption, especially in the late game, where Appaloosa's negate and body on board becomes even better. Then following that, we have Amblawell, Zealantis, and Raging Phoenix. This is standard just in general, and this is standard for OTK. There's going to be decks that are going to be really strong against Fire Kings, whether it be Infernoble. Infernoble can still set up a pretty nasty board, and it can kind of be an FDK. You have Droll, for Vanadium as well. You have Droll for Silent Force, which is going to be coming out. It's now going to be called Voice's Voice, whatever you want to call it. Droll can be really strong against all of those decks that can be threats if they go first and are uninterrupted, right? But with the amount of non-engine you play, you should relatively be okay, right? Ghost Spell, Nibiru kind of does nothing against Labyrinth. In fact, it really does nothing against Labyrinth. So being able to check, all of their big welcomes if possible, or, Stovey Torby coming back from the grave, Cool Clock, etc. Whatever they have that they can bring back, Ghost Spell is going to be really good. Following that, we have Ghost Mourner. Ghost Mourner is an awkward card for me to talk about, because while it's not Imperm, while it's not Valor, it does a few things. Number one, this can help you in time. I mean, the monster leaves the field that you targeted with it, then it's GG's, right? In a situation where time is everything. 2, it is still a Valor-like effect, right? So if they summon Populace from the deck, from the hand, and you have the Ghost Mourner ready for it, then they will take not only the damage, but they won't get the Ash. Now, this only works on special summon monsters, right? But this card can be really good, because the more imperms that you have in the deck, the better it is for you going against Fire Kings, at least in my opinion. Truly. This card is also decent in general, so tech it however way you want. I believe this card is only best when you go second, right? When you can guarantee that you can be Chainlink too. Because when you're turn player and you have Ghost Mourner, you will be Chainlink 1. So for instance, if they summon like Lovely on your turn, right? And you Ghost Mourner is Ghost Mourner Chainlink 1, Lovely Chainlink 2, they will be able to not only destroy a card on field or on hand, but also their effect's not going to be negated by the time that it resolves. However, this card can be pretty nice when they end up using something like Crimson Dragon against a Centurion matchup, because this card would be the last card to resolve as you being the turn player, which would make the hot red Calamities miss timing. The reason is that Calamities is a card that ends up working that way. When this card is synchro summoned, you can. However, on resolution, if you chainlink one Mourner, they chainlink two Crimson, summon hot red. The last thing that happens in that chain is Ghost Mourner resolving to supposedly negate the Crimson Dragon. However, because it is not on the field, obviously he still brings out, or they can still bring out the Calamities, but it will not be able to prevent you from activating effects on field. So that's something that I like to state there. Double thrust for the good normal spells here, right? Talents, soul release, evenly. Not a spell, but a normal trap, right? However, you can place this in the main by removing an island and replace this with, I mean, it could be anything really. It could be Dimension Barrier, it can be DDG, you know, not really something you want to play, but if you have nothing on your turn and because they hand trapped you, you can set a DDG and win against the matchup as well, against the mirror rather. And there's so many options, right? So do with that information what you will. It could be Magic Deflector, right? If you have Magic Deflector and they are playing the mirror as well, if they activate the wanted, Magic Deflector negates the field spell, negates the continuous. It makes the matchup a little bit easier, somewhat. So yeah, this is what I've come up with. When I was thinking about, you know, playing Prosperity, I got rid of one island, I got rid of a circle, and I got rid of Dramatic Chase, so I can fit 3 Prosperity. Because if you're going to play it, you might as well play them at 3. Same concept with, you know, Desire, same concept with Extravagance. If you're going to play those cards, you might as well play it at 3. Nothing else really changes, except here, there's no Called By, there's a Harpies, right? It could make the, like, lab matchup easier, I guess. Or, you know, you could hit just decks that set a lot, right? But yeah, that is that. Here is a list though that I will share with all of you. The reason why I am happy sharing this is because it comes from the guy who made the spreadsheet for the, you know, Fire King combo. In this case, the list is relatively the same, except there's a few changes. He plays Chinese ratios. If you don't know what that means, you haven't played Pokemon Showdown, right? The main differences that I see is that he plays 1 Droll and 1 Nib in the main. He also plays Called By and Crossout Designator, as well as a Talents in the main deck. I hate these ratios, I'm not gonna lie to you. The reason is that this works more in the OCG, whereas in the TCG, because you don't have Max C, it doesn't really make sense, in my opinion, to play these one-ofs. Well, Called By is kind of, you know, it happens, right? Now you might be saying, hey, you have like 1 Talents in the side. Well, I also play double thrust, right? So that's my reasoning for that. But with Crossout, I mean, Crossout is fine. Obviously, he plays the like 1 Crossout targets. You really don't need to play these, and at least for Crossout. And I can show you why here in a second. But if that's the purpose of playing this card, then honestly, hey, if it works, right? Also, he doesn't play double Flamberge, which is like fine. But yeah, in the extra deck, the other differences is that he does play the Garunix, he does play the Decode Talker, he also plays Nightmare Phoenix, so it looks like he doesn't play the Anima package, which is fine. But yeah, this is the reason why, in my opinion, Droll is just not ever really a card that you have to worry about. We can use this as a default. So aside from Wanted being a card that automatically plays around Droll, because Wanted is full combo, unironically, the main thing that you have to realize is that Ash plays around Droll really well. Now, there is going to be important times where Droll really hurts. That is going to be when you have to start with Bonfire and you don't have Wanted as a follow-up, or when you have to start with desires, if you play desires, right? Then yeah, Droll hurts. But at that point, why don't you play multiple copies of Crossout so you can guarantee you seeing it whenever you need it? So that's why I'm like, you know, for me, the one copy is just kind of redundant. But hey, to each their own, right? Although I guess if you are able to cross out a Droll and then talons their hand and get rid of another card, that does feel pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. But again, you still have the chance to see another Droll. So it's like, might as well play multiple Droll, multiple crossouts, right? You know, it's whatever. Anyways, at this point, we add with Ash, so Chain Link 1 will be Populous. If they drop Droll, then we simply summon. We don't get the draw, but unironically, we still get to our full end board. From here, we'll go ahead and link summon into the Link Karibo. The Populous will place itself in the, you know, spawn trap zone. These two can go send each other to summon the Oak and summon back either or, right? From here, the Oak can send itself and the Link Karibo to grab us a copy of the Flamberge. From here, you could just link into, let's say, a Masquerena, or it could even be a Sunlight Wolf. Sunlight Wolf can get you some follow-up, right, by getting this back to hand when you summon these two back off of the Flamberge. Or again, it can still just be IP, and you know, we can go into that line here in a second. But yeah, you go from this to the Promethean Princess. The Promethean Princess will then summon back the Flamberge, and then you can end off with the Amblawell, right? Instead, though, if you wanted to go off of the other route, right, where instead of going for the Sunlight Wolf, you can go into like the Masquerena. This can be an immediate Appaloosa. The Masquerena, though, you know, as I mentioned before, can just be the Promethean Princess. Promethean Princess summon out the Flamberge. Flamberge put Masquerena into the spell trap zone. You know, use these for a Amblawell, and then next turn you get an interruption with Masquerena by being able to you know, link with either Flamberge or the Amblawell to go for the SP Little Knight. If you decide to not use the Amblawell, you can go this route to summon the SP. SP will banish a card. Flamberge can then bring, you know, like this card out, which in then turn brings this card out, while also getting you the Sinful Spoil spell, and then the Ash can get you the either Ponix, which you could, or you can go for Ash, right? And it lets you play during your opponent's turn a lot more. If you follow that up instead with a Ponix, you can get the Ponix effect, assuming you go ahead and destroy Amblawell to bring out the Bestower. That pops 2, assuming you had an extra, you know, board, which you don't need Oak, right? You can either summon something back with Amblawell, or you can go ahead and summon the Ponix in order to get your Sanctuary, and at that point, you have things rolling, right, for the next turn. You also have SP Banish for another monster until the end phase. I mean, there's so much that you can really do, right? And that's why, you know, Droll shouldn't matter. But again, Droll matters and Nib matters when they're in combination, or when they are in conjunction with other hand traps, right? So nothing is set in stone. But if that's your only interruption, you should be good. Again, though, it still depends on what you start off with. Just to rebound, if you ever have to start with this or with Prosperity, then yeah, you know, it's gonna hurt. And in some cases, you can still play through it. So that is the TED Talk for the combo video here. Overall, the deck is going to be really strong, right? No one can deny that. The fact that you're able to play such a strong engine alongside the, you know, non-engine package that you have makes this a very worthwhile deck to pilot. Now, is it expensive? Yes. If we look at the recent price trends for a lot of these cards, they're pretty high up there. You know, the structure decks, pretty cheap. The ashes are pretty cheap. So is oak. This thing is like $6 or $7. You know, overall, if you were to price a lot of these out, it is pretty cheap. I mean, you have reprints with Nib, with Valor, with Ash, with Imperm, with Prosperity. In fact, you get Imperm and Droll in the structure deck, and those cards are about $3 each. So you're making some money back when you're making that investment to get 3 structure decks, right? So you don't lose out too much in the process. Plus, you get some very good hand traps, right? Bell got reprinted. This card has a gold reprinting. It could be pretty cheap. Instead of thrust, you can maximize the amount of tactics or soul releases that you can get. Soul release can be pretty cheap. If you go for the commons, trust me, I've seen them on TCG Player. You can get them for a relatively low amount of price. The Heartbeats and the Evenly, again, these 2 cards I think got reprinted in the Rarity Collection. And even if this one didn't, there's still plenty of commons for you to choose from, or the Egyptian God structure deck where this did come as a super, right? And I think that card is even worth a bit of money. So, you know, you work with what you got, right? The place where it hurts is Bonfire and Wanted. I just bought my bonfires this weekend. I spent a total of about $230 to get those cards. Why? Because I pay 100%. I don't do vendor prices. I wish if I did, I'd be saving myself a lot of money, but I am not. These just jumped up to about 100 literally in one night on TCG Player. Last Thursday, I was in the tournament. I saw these lowest at 65. I thought they're probably going to keep dropping. Nope, they went to 80 on the weekend, and here this Monday they are 100 still on TCG. Luckily, this card Wanted did drop to about 100, maybe 95. These are the cheapest that there probably will ever be unless they do keep tanking. So get them now rather than later. Same thing with the Witch and, you know, Flamberge. But still, this is an investment already of $600. This is 640 max. This is an additional, let's say maximum 12 each, so this is 660 at least, plus this is 670, and then the rest of these cards bring the main deck total roughly to about 700, and depending on what rarities you're looking for, maybe even 800-900, right? And then you got to look at the extra deck. These commons are not cheap. This is not cheap. This is fairly cheap, but still not that cheap. IP Masqueradas had gone up, right? Wolves, they make commons, but then you have SP Little Knight to worry about, which that went up for the American TCG at $120 on TCG Player, right? I think these are confirmed to be Ultra, but they're still not going to be that low, right? So yeah, I mean, you're looking to spend about $1,000 maximum on this deck, maybe even a bit more depending on how much the princesses and the populaces are. So yeah, is it an expensive deck? It is, and I wish that the game was cheaper. Do I like spending $100 on a fucking card? I don't. And we've all had this discussion before, right? I mean, all the other YouTubers did it before me here talking about it today. But it is the price of competition, and I wish Konami was able to address this better. But that's enough of my rant about that. The strength of this deck is going to be really good for the price. And while, you know, you might not want to break the bank, hey, maybe you can sell this in its prime price. Who knows? The price might spike. And then you make your money back and you just play Lightsworn when Legacy comes out, right? Who knows? But yeah, that's really it. In terms of what deck can best compete against it, I mean, anything really, right? Even if you don't want to play this deck, you can just easily try to fight the matchup as best as you can, or you can play pure Snake Eye, right? I don't have a video for that. I haven't been cracking on the deck itself. My friend tells me that he thinks Pure Snake Eye is going to be better than Fire Kings just because of the fact that there's no Max C here, right? But who knows? We'll see. The 3v3 is coming soon after the Phantom Nightmare box comes out. So good luck with everyone if you guys are going to pull on that set. And if you are like me and you already have all this stuff and you're just waiting for a Populous and Promethean Princess, then again, I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully you end up having some really good matches here in the near future. This has been RGB Fox, aka the real A-Town, and that has been my discussion for Fire Kings. If you want me to post some more combos that can play around certain hand traps, feel free to let me know, because funny enough, I do think that Garunix and Kirin is full combo, but don't quote me on that. I gotta double check. So yeah, see you guys. Peace.